Section 8 of the American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Om123. The American Rivals of Sherlock Holmes. The Man Higher Up by William McHugh and Adrian Balmer. Part 1. The first real blizzard of the winter had burst upon New York from the Atlantic. For 72 hours, as Rentland, file clerk in the Broadway offices of the American Commodities Company, saw, from the record he was making for President Welter, no ship of any of the dozen expected from foreign ports had been able to make the company's docks in Brooklyn, or indeed had been reported at Sandy Hook. And for the last 5 days, during which the Weather Bureau's storm signals had stayed steadily set, no steamer of the 6, which had finished unloading at the docks the week before, had dared to try for the open sea except one, the Elizabethan Age, which had cleared the Narrows on Monday night. On land, the storm was scarcely less disastrous to the business of the great importing company. Since Tuesday morning, Rentland's reports of the car and trainload consignments, which had left the warehouses daily, had been a monotonous page of trains told. But until that Friday morning, Welter, the big bull-necked tickle-lipped master of man and money, had borne all the accumulated trouble of the week with serenity, almost with contempt. Only when the file clerk added to his report the minor item that the 3,000-ton steamer, Elizabethan Age, which had cleared on Monday night, had been driven into Boston, something suddenly seemed to break in the inner office. Rentland had the president's secretary telephone to Brooklyn for Rowan, the dock superintendent. He heard Welter's heavy steps going to and fro in the private office, his hoarse voice raised angrily, and soon afterwards Rowan blustered in. Rentland could no longer overhear the voices. He went back to his own private office and called the station master at the Grand Central Station on the telephone. "The 7 o'clock train from Chicago?" the clerk asked in a guarded voice. "It came in at 10:30 as expected?" "Oh, at 10:10. Thank you." He hung up the receiver and opened the door to pass a word with Rowan as he came out of the president's office. "They have wired that the Elizabethan Age could not get beyond Boston, Rowan," he cried curiously. The hooker, the dock superintendent, had gone strangely white. For the imperceptible fraction of an instant his eyes dimmed with fear, as he stared into the wondering face of the clerk, but he recovered himself quickly, spat offensively, and slammed the door as he went out. Rentland stood with clenched hands for a moment. Then he glanced at the clock, and hurried to the entrance of the outer office. The elevator was just bringing up from the street a red-haired, blue-gray-eyed young man of medium height, who, noting with a quick, intelligent glance the arrangement of the offices, advanced directly toward President Welter's door. The chief clerk stepped forward quickly. "You are Mr. Trent?" "Yes." "I am Rentland. This way, please." He led the psychologist to the little room behind the files, where he had telephoned the moment before. "Your wire to me in Chicago, which brought me here," said Trent, turning from the inscription "File Clerk" on the door to the dogged, decisive features and weary form of his client, "gave me to understand that you wished to have me investigate the disappearance or death of 2 of your dock scale checkers. I suppose you are acting for President Welter, of whom I have heard, in sending for me." "No," said Rentland, as he waved Trent to a seat. "President Welter is certainly not troubling himself to that extent over an investigation." "Then the company or some other officer?" Trent questioned with increasing curiosity. "No, nor the company nor any other officer in it, Mr. Trent." Rentland smiled. "Nor even am I, as file clerk of the American Commodities Company, over troubling myself about those checkers. He leaned nearer to Trent, confidentially. "But as a special agent for the United States Treasury Department, I am extremely interested in the death of one of these men, and in the disappearance of the other. And for that I called you to help me." "As a secret agent for the government?" Trent repeated, with rapidly rising interest. "Yes, a spy, if you wish to call me, but as truly in the ranks of the enemies to my country as any Nathan Hale, who has a statue in this city. Today the enemies are the big corrupting thieving corporations like this company, and appreciating that, I am not ashamed to be a spy in their ranks, commissioned by the government to catch and condemn President Walter and any other officers involved with him for systematically stealing from the government for the past 10 years, and for probable connivance in the murder of at least one of those two checkers, so that the company might continue to steal." "To steal? How?" "Customs frauds, theft, smuggling, anything you wish to call it. Exactly what or how I can't tell, for that is part of what I sent for you to find out. For a number of years the Customs Department has suspected, upon circumstantial evidence, that the enormous profits of this company upon the 1,001 things which it is importing and distributing must come, in part, from goods they have got through without paying the proper duty. So, at my own suggestion, I entered the employ of the company a year ago to get track of the method. But after a year here, I was almost ready to give up the investigation in despair, when Ed Landers, the company's checker on the docks in Scalehouse No. 3, was killed, accidentally, the coroner's jury said. To me it looked suspiciously like murder. Within 2 weeks Morse, who was appointed as checker in his place, suddenly disappeared. The company's officials showed no concern as to the fate of these two men, and my suspicions that something crooked might be going on at Scalehouse No. 3 were strengthened, and I sent for you to help me to get at the bottom of the things. Is it not best then to begin by giving me as fully as possible the details of the employment of Morse and Landers, and also of their disappearances?" the young psychologist suggested. "I have told you these things here, Trent, rather than take you to some safer place," the secret agent replied, "because I have been waiting for someone who can tell you what you need to know better than I can." Edith Rowan, the stepdaughter of the dock superintendent, knew Landers well, for he boarded at Rowan's house. She was, or is, if he still lives, engaged to Morse. It is an unusual thing for Rowan himself to come here to see President Walter, as he did just before you came. But every morning, since Morse disappeared, his daughter has come to see Walter personally. She is already waiting in the outer office. Opening the door, he indicated to Trent a light-haired, overdressed, nervous girl twisting about uneasily on the seat outside the president's private office. Walter thinks it policy, for some reason, to see her a moment every morning, but she always comes out almost at once, crying. "This is interesting," Trent commented, as he watched the girl go into the president's office. After only a moment she came out, crying. Rentland had already left his room, so it seemed by chance that he and Trent met and supported her to the elevator, and over the slippery pavement to the neat electric coupe which was standing at the curb. "It's hers," said Rentland, as Trent hesitated before helping the girl into it. "It is one of the things I wanted you to see. Broadway is very slippery, Miss Rowan. You will let me see you home again this morning. This gentleman is Mr. Trent, a private detective. I want him to come along with us." The girl acquiesced, and Trent crowded into the little automobile. Rand turned the coupe skillfully out into the swept path of the street, ran swiftly down Fifth Avenue to 14th Street, and stopped 3 streets to the east before a house in the middle of the block. The house was as narrow and cramped and as cheaply constructed as its neighbors on both sides. It had lace curtains conspicuous in every window, and impressive statues, vases, and gaudy